Today we journey not through haunted ruins, but into the very bedrock of Welsh nightmares. We're opening a book filled with forgotten, chilling tales. A collection of stories so brutal, so strange, they make Greek myths look like bedtime stories. We're diving headfirst into the Mabinogi. And we begin, as the Mabinogi itself does, with the first branch. The terrifying, sometimes grotesque and utterly captivating tale of Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed. This is not the familiar world of chivalrous knights and noble queens. This is a land where the forest whispers secrets, where the hills are haunted, and where the gods themselves are as cunning and dangerous as any mortal. It's a place where a man's honour can be his greatest strength or his most damning weakness. The Mabinogi has been a lifelong source of inspiration for myself and Dark Wales tours, but I will be the first to admit it's quite a difficult read. The original texts in particular are complex, full of archaic language, and can sometimes be tough to navigate. That's why I'm so passionate about unpacking these stories here with you now. They are a wellspring of epic myths, powerful women, and supernatural events that often put modern fantasy to shame. Our goal is to strip away the barriers and bring these ancient, brutal, and beautiful tales to life, showing you how they continue to shape our world and inspire our art. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you never miss out on new videos from Dark Wales Tours. Our story opens in the wild, untamed lands of Dyfed, modern-day Pembrokeshire, ruled by a young, impulsive, yet fundamentally honourable prince named Pwyll. One fateful day, while hunting in the mystical Glyncoch Valley, Pwyll stumbled upon a sight that would forever change his destiny. A pack of hounds, unlike any he had ever seen. They were dazzling white with ears of fiery red and had brought down a stag. Now, any self-respecting hunter knows you don't interfere with another's kill. But Pwyll, in a moment of thoughtless arrogance, drove the strange hounds away and set his own dogs upon the carcass. He felt a chilling sense of unease, as if the very air around him had turned cold. He saw the hound's owner, a spectral king that appeared before him. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that he had made a terrible mistake. This was Arwen, the lord of the Welsh Otherworld. His voice was a whisper of dead leaves and a roar of distant thunder, and his gaze was a thing of pure, cold fury. Pwyll's act of hubris had been a mortal insult to an immortal king. But instead of instant vengeance, Arwen offered a terrifying bargain. Pwyll would take his place in his kingdom of Annwn for a year and a day. He would wear Arwen's form, rule his kingdom and face his greatest enemy, a being named Hafgan. The pact was sealed, not with a handshake, but with a shudder that ran through the very stones of the valley. In a blink, Pwyll's body was no longer his own. He was a stranger in his own skin, trapped in the guise of a king he knew nothing about, in a world where the sun never truly rose. The other world was a place of waking nightmares. Its beauty was skin deep, concealing a chilling emptiness. For a year and a day, Pwyll walked in Arwen's shoes. He ruled with a stoic silence, a mask of the man he was forced to be. But the true test came every night. He lay beside a queen of unearthly beauty, Arwen's wife, and by his own honour he had to resist her. True to his word, he never laid a hand on her. His fidelity, his honour, was paramount. The year of silent torment culminated in his final test, the duel with Halfdan. Arwen's instructions were chillingly specific. Land a single blow. One and no more. With a cold dread, Pwyll faced his enemy. The battle was over in an instant. A single brutal strike. Halfdan's screams were cut short, and Pwyll knew he had fulfilled his dreadful bargain. Pwyll returned to his own world, his own skin. He had proven his honour and earned Arwen's respect, but he was no longer the same man. The other world had left its mark on him. He had stared into the heart of Annwn and seen its secrets, and they had changed him forever. The price of his arrogance had been a year in a waking nightmare, a year in a borrowed skin, and from that day on he was known as Pwyll Pen and Owen, Pwyll, head of the Otherworld. He had a new title, but the darkness had claimed him too. Pwyll returned to his court in Dyfed, physically whole but spiritually scarred. The world felt dull and lifeless after the vivid terrors of Annwn. The people saw their prince, but they did not see the haunted man who had walked in the skin of a king of the dead. He carried the weight of the Otherworld within him, a silent, chilling companion. One day, drawn by an instinct he couldn't name, he rode to the Goserth Arborth, a forgotten mound said to be a gateway to the supernatural. Legend promised that any who sat upon it would either witness a great wonder or be struck down by a deadly blow. It was a fool's gamble, but Pwyll, now marked by the dread of Annwn, felt a morbid curiosity, a need to confront the darkness that clung to him. Pwyll and his men waited, and then a wonder appeared. A woman of unparalleled beauty, dressed in shimmering gold, riding a magnificent white horse. But there was something deeply wrong. The horse glided across the ground without a sound, and no matter how fast Pwyll's men rode, she remained the exact same distance ahead of them. This wasn't a chase. It was a psychological torment, a maddening illusion. The very laws of nature seemed to bend to her will. For 3 days they pursued this silent phantom, their horses collapsing from exhaustion, whilst hers remained pristine and tireless. The beauty was a mask for an unnerving supernatural power. On the 3rd day, with his men broken and his mind reeling, Pwyll finally cried out, his voice hoarse from frustration. "Maiden, for the sake of the man you love best, wait for me." And wait she did. The horse halted instantly, a sudden jarring break in the silent chase. This was Rhiannon, a woman of the Otherworld, and her voice was as calm as a deep, still lake. She had come specifically for Pwyll, having chosen him over her current betrothed, a noble man named Pwyll ap Llwyd. She saw past the man to the honour he had endured, and in him she saw a partner worthy of her power. This wasn't a damsel in distress. This was a queen of nightmares, choosing her king. And so their engagement was announced. Pwyll, a prince haunted by the Otherworld, would marry a queen from the realm of the dead. The grand feast was a thin veil over a simmering cauldron of malice. As the wine flowed and the music played, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Pwyll ap Llwyd, the nobleman Rhiannon had spurred. He did not come to celebrate. He came to reclaim what he believed was his. He bowed to Pwyll with a smile that never reached his eyes, and in a voice dripping with false piety, asked for a favour. A single request, as was the custom for guests. Pwyll, still a man of honour, despite the horrors he had witnessed, swore on his life to grant it. A grave mistake, for Pwyll's request was simple and venomous. He demanded Rhiannon, and the wedding feast itself. Pwyll, bound by his oath, was caught in a trap he had no hope of escaping, a mortal prince snared by a rival's cold cunning. But Pwyll was not alone. Rhiannon, a queen from the other world, was not one to be a victim. She stepped forward, her face a mask of cold fury, and whispered her plan to her distraught prince. She couldn't break Pwyll's oath, but she could and would turn it against Gwawl. A year passed, and at the sight of the next feast, Rhiannon and Pwyll put their dark plan into motion. Pwyll, disguised, entered the hall with a single object, a magical bag given to him by Rhiannon, a bag that by its nature could never be filled. Gwawl, smug in his victory, gloated from his throne. Pwyll, in the disguise of a beggar, approached him. "My lord, I am but a poor man. I ask only that you fill this small bag with food from your feast." Gwawl, arrogant and dismissive, agreed. He had no idea he was walking into a trap set by a vengeful queen. Gwawl's nobles poured food into the bag, but it remained empty. A bottomless pit, a supernatural trick. Pwyll, maintaining his disguise, looked to Gwawl. "My lord, perhaps your own power can fill it." Gwawl, his pride wounded, stepped inside to demonstrate that the bag must be faulty. That was Rhiannon's signal. Pwyll sealed the bag shut. The grand feast erupted in a terrifying guttural roar as his men, upon Rhiannon's orders, began to beat it with clubs in a brutal game known as Badger in the Bag. Gwawl, a king in his own right, screamed from within the bag, his cries lost in the cruel rhythm of the beatings. Only when Gwawl swore an oath to relinquish all claims to Rhiannon and his kingdom was the savage punishment finally brought to an end. Rhiannon had not just won, she had humiliated and destroyed her rival. The message was clear. She was not a queen to be trifled with. Her vengeance was as cold and sharp as her wit. Rhiannon, the true mastermind here, showcases the timeless archetype of the intelligent, resourceful woman who uses her wit, not brute force, to overcome adversity. We see echoes of her brilliance in so many of our favourite pop culture heroines. The strategic genius of characters like Hermione Granger from Harry Potter, the cunning and resilience of Katniss Everdeen, or even the calculated revenge plots carried out by characters like Beatrix Kiddo in Kill Bill. But her influence goes even deeper. When Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood Mac penned her iconic song Rhiannon, she originally drew inspiration from a modern novel. However, after the song became a massive hit, fans told her about the ancient Welsh legend. Nicks was astounded to find that her lyrics, which described a powerful, mysterious and otherworldly woman, were a perfect match for the queen of the Mabinogion. She became so captivated that she has spent a lifetime trying to bring Rhiannon's full story to life. Rhiannon proves that true power often lies in the mind, not just the sword, and that her mythic legacy continues to inspire to this very day. After Pwyll and Rhiannon's brutal revenge, a fragile peace settled over the kingdom. Their joy was complete with the birth of a son, a child meant to secure their lineage. But the joy was born under a dark star. On the very night he was born, while 6 of Rhiannon's ladies-in-waiting were tasked with watching him, the child vanished without a trace. A monstrous shriek echoed through the halls, and the child was gone. The terrified women, fearing the wrath of the Otherworld queen and her prince, concocted a gruesome lie. They smeared the blood of a dog across Rhiannon's face and hands, falsely accusing her of the darkest deed imaginable. When the court awoke, they pointed a finger at their queen, accusing her of the unspeakable crime. Rhiannon, a queen who had outsmarted a king, was now powerless against the terror and ignorance of mortals. Pwyll, a man torn between his love for her and the demands of his terrified court, could do nothing. Rhiannon was stripped of her title and sentenced to a horrific public penance. For 7 long years she was forced to sit at the main castle gate, a living monument to her supposed depravity. She had to offer her back to any guest who arrived, carrying them to the hall while whispering the terrible lie of her alleged crime. A queen of fierce power, a woman of the Otherworld, was reduced to a beast of burden, her spirit crushed under the weight of a false accusation and a kingdom's terror. Meanwhile, miles away, a nobleman named Rhiannon faced his own nightmare. For years, a mysterious monster had been stealing the foal from his prize mare every May Eve. One night, he lay in wait. The creature, a shadowy beast with a great claw, appeared. Rhiannon fought it off and in the aftermath found a baby abandoned on his doorstep, wrapped in silk. Beside the child lay a monstrous severed claw. Rhiannon and his wife raised the child, naming him Pwyll and Rhiannon, Gwyrri of the golden hair, and soon noticed something unnerving. He grew at an impossible rate, reaching the size of a 7-year-old in just 4 years. As the boy matured, Rhiannon couldn't shake the feeling that he was looking at someone he knew, a prince he had met long ago. The boy was the spitting image of Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed. The Otherworld had once again reached into the mortal realm, but this time it had left behind a piece of the king's destiny. It was a terrifying realization. Rhiannon understood that he held not just a child, but a piece of a great supernatural drama. He was no longer a simple nobleman. He was a pawn in a game of ancient myth and mortal justice. With a sense of dread and duty, he made the long and perilous journey to Pwyll's court, carrying the boy who would be king. Pwyll was a man of the shadows, but when Rhiannon presented the boy, he saw the light of his own lineage. The resemblance was so exact, it could not be denied. A tremor went through the court, and Rhiannon, our disgraced queen, still sitting at the gate, looked up. Her face, a mask of 7 years of humiliation, changed. The sight of her son, whole and alive, replaced her despair with a chilling, quiet rage. The truth, buried under a lie of blood and bone, had finally emerged. The women who had framed her were brought forth, their false accusations exposed. Rhiannon was finally, officially, exonerated. Her punishment was over, but the memory of her humiliation and the bitterness of her injustice would haunt the kingdom forever. She had won her freedom, but at a terrible, soul-crushing cost. The boy was named Pryderi, which means worry, a bitter reminder of the years of grief and injustice. He grew into a powerful and wise prince, a true heir to his father and his otherworldly mother. The first branch of the Mabinogi, the story of Pwyll and Rhiannon, is more than just an ancient tale. It's a foundational myth that teaches us about the gravity of our actions, even accidental ones. It celebrates the power of integrity, loyalty, and the unwavering spirit of a truly wise woman. It reminds us that justice, though sometimes delayed, can prevail, and even from the deepest worry, new hope can emerge. And it reinforces the ancient Welsh belief in a vibrant, intertwined world with the natural and the supernatural are never far apart. And that is just the first branch. For me, these stories aren't just ancient tales, they're the very soul of Wales. The Mabinogi has always been a source of immense inspiration. Its brutal honesty, its deep magic, and its unforgettable characters have shaped my own fascination with this land. We at Dark Wales Tours are dedicated to uncovering the deeper, darker truths of Wales. We see these tales not as simple fables, but as the foundation of our country's identity, and I can't wait to share more of it with you. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of this incredible saga. We will be delving into the next branches, exploring new heroes, new horrors, and new lessons hidden in the mists of time. So, what did you find most fascinating about Pwyll and Rhiannon's dark journey? Are there other pop culture comparisons that you can draw? Please let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the darker lore of Wales, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to Dark Wales Tours for more chilling tales and forgotten histories, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next adventure. Thank you as always for watching today. Hope you've enjoyed this one as much as us. We always appreciate your support and kind words. It truly means the world to us. And if you do wish to support us further, you can send a super thanks. It's just a small way to help support the channel and help us keep bringing you these dark and intriguing tales. But as you know, you just being here, watching and sharing in the mystery with us is the most important thing of all. And remember, Pwyll and Rhiannon's story is a haunting reminder that even the deepest darkness can be overcome by unwavering love and the strength of a righteous mind. Until next time, be careful out there.